Hello, I'm Leanne Williams. In today's episode, we try to understand what energy efficiency really means. What is sustainable and renewable energy? Let's take a closer look.
My name is Wickers van Niekerk. I'm the director for the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at Stellenbosch University. And our main focus at the center is to look at renewable energy and how we can make use of renewable energy to service the energy requirements that we have in our daily lives. When one speaks about alternative energy, or what we would rather call renewable energy, it's typically energy that we can use without destroying the current balance on Earth. So for instance, there's a lot of fossil fuels that's on the Earth that's sequestrated, and we can burn that. But once we've burned it, we can't get it back. So we'd like to make use of energy which are renewable. For instance, energy that comes mainly from the sun. What's important is that if you look at the whole chain of energies, if you want to, the primary energy that we get is from the sun that heats up the Earth, and that causes winds to blow, or pressure differences which causes winds to blow. So wind energy originally comes from solar energy. And then also wave energy is created by the wind blowing over the oceans for many, many miles, whipping up the waves, and then we have wave energy. So wind energy, wave energy, and solar energy all comes from the sun. And then even things like bioenergy is basically for photosynthesis, which the energy is captured into leaves and tree trunks and things like that we can also use for energy. The only energy that's sort of not directly related to the heat of the sun is tidal energy. But there is also the attraction forces of the sun and the moon, which causes the tide. So in a sense, that's also associated with the sun. South Africa is really a very wonderful country if you look at it. We've got lots of very diverse people, very interesting people. We have all the mineral wells. We have a very diverse nature. We have some of the floral kingdoms of the world. It's only found in South Africa. And it's very interesting that we also have renewable energy that's very, very unique. And we're really blessed with a fantastic solar energy resource. That is, we are seen as one of the countries with the best solar energy resource in the world. We can service our energy needs over and over and over again with the solar energy that we have. At the same time, we have a very nicely well-developed wind energy resource as well. It's spread out mainly on the southern part, on the coastal southern regions, and also on the west coast, but also in the central part, especially in the Karoo, there's a fair amount of wind energy. We also recognize as one of the countries that has a fair amount of wave energy. Especially along the south coast of South Africa and up the west coast, we have a wave energy resource that can be exploited for energy. We have the Agulhas current off the east coast of South Africa, where there is a lot of energy in the Agulhas current that is consistent. It flows right through the year, 24/7, so there's an exploitable resource there. So in general in South Africa, we have more than enough renewable energy resources to service our current energy needs.
The simplest way to define biofuels is fuels made from biological material, and this is primarily from plant materials. Now, biofuels, I would use it sort of more in a narrow view, and that is transport fuel, which means that you can use in cars, in trucks, as well as in airplanes. And in biofuels, you can sort of distinguish two kinds of biofuels today. The one is biodiesel, which you would make from vegetable oils, and the other would be bioethanol, which you would make from fermenting sugars. Now, there is a whole new generation of biofuels that will come in as you start to use second generation technologies, thermochemical, etc. But I think for the time being, the two known are bioethanol and biodiesel. In terms of biofuel production, as I said, once we have an incentivized strategy we can probably very quickly get up to 10%. That should not be too difficult in South Africa if we can use first generation and second generation technologies. In terms of cellulosic ethanol, it'll probably take another 3 to 5 years before it's really going to be rolled out commercially. However, we already have technologies which have been demonstrated. So, people in the past said, yeah, you always said it's 10 years off. Now it's really becoming real. It is between 3 and 5 years, depending on how quickly you can integrate these technologies, particularly with first generation technologies. The predictions for South Africa actually is that if you can utilize 50% of our biomass efficiently with first generation technologies, which you can use sugarcane, you can use first generation technologies, say grains, in terms of sorghum, grain sorghum, etc. Second generation technologies, and you integrate them also with thermochemical technologies. Now, those are a lot of big words, but if you integrate it all, we can actually replace fossil fuel with biofuels.
Hi, my name is Roy from BioGreen Diesel, and what we do is we create biodiesel out of waste oil. What we do initially is that we take oil to the restaurants as raw sunflower oil, where it's used and fried, and we then get it back from the restaurants. It's then created into waste oil, and that waste oil has what we call a very high free fatty acid content. The free fatty acid content over 1.5% is carcinogenic. It enhances HIV to AIDS. It causes pulmonary diseases, and it's what's called a superoxidized soup. Basically what we do is we take that waste oil, we break it down from being a polymerized triglyceride into a diglyceride, monoglyceride, and then eventually it becomes biodiesel and glycerol, which is the byproduct of it. What we do is we do a washing process and we do a drying process. The biodiesel is then distributed into the number of businesses in Cape Town which blend it with their mineral diesel, and we reduce carbon emissions significantly to mitigate climate change. One of the major significant things that we do is that we work with large retail companies like Pick n Pay and Spar, and all of their trucks that you see in the Western Cape are running on a 5% blend of biodiesel mixed with their mineral diesel, and obviously that is helping the planet in what we do.
Hydrogen is an energy carrier, which means that it's not a source in itself like fossil fuels. You can have gas, all kinds of fuels, right? And which must be produced. So normally today 95% of hydrogen produced is coming from natural gas, but there are ways to produce this from water. And if it's then the electricity that goes into splitting that water into hydrogen and oxygen, if that comes from renewable energy, that will then be a completely clean way to produce the hydrogen. Because when you then recombine the hydrogen in the fuel cell with oxygen, you just get, in addition of course to electricity and power, you just get water vapor as your exhaust, which is a very attractive idea. And this is also exactly the reason why hydrogen is now being introduced in buses and things, in mobile applications in cities where that has a high level of pollution. But the nice thing about hydrogen and fuel cell technology is we're standing basically in front of a new energy revolution, and hydrogen and fuel cell technology will be part of that, together with other renewable energy technologies such as solar and wind. That means that it's very multidisciplinary. That means that we need people, all skills, all disciplines in engineering and science, from chemistry to physics to in your classical engineering disciplines and mechanical, and even in the infrastructure build-up you need civil engineering. So you need all disciplines, and that's a nice thing. That means that we need everyone. Another thing is that it also cuts across several levels in the sense that you need both high to low skilled labor. So the moment we move into manufacturing, since we are trying to develop fuel cells here in South Africa for these various markets, we will also go into manufacturing. So it will create jobs. So we will eventually need work, or we need labor in all disciplines.
There is a fuel cell powered with hydrogen, supplied with hydrogen. And there's a fuel cell module produces electrical energy needed for electrical motor installed in a bike. So it's like a normal bike, but it's easier to pedal because of this electrical assistance.
So in a European and a northern hemisphere country where it's cold, where they can harness the heat from the fuel cells as well as electricity, fuel cells makes a lot of sense. In a country like South Africa, it's a bit of a challenge to make a case for why fuel cells should be used in a variety of different applications, especially in rural areas or in the residential sector. Because of this turnaround efficiency of electricity, from electricity to hydrogen back to electricity through a fuel cell. So that is the challenge to the fuel cell community, that you really have to come up with a turnaround efficiency in the order of 80 to 90% that you will have on a pump storage scheme. For instance, the Palmit pump storage schemes. I mean, they have very high turnaround efficiencies where you basically then use electricity to pump water up to a dam, and then when you need the energy again, you run the water down through the same turbine to generate electricity. Those machines have very, very high turnaround efficiencies, and fuel cells will have a hard time competing with that. Well, whenever you look at renewable energy, you have to deal with variability. And you have some variability which is easy to predict. The sun shines in the day and not at night. And you have some variability that's less easy to predict. Seasonal variability, like in the Western Cape, we've got high waves in winter, but not as high in summer. But the trade-off there is we have lots of wind in summer and not as much in winter, so the two complement each other. But if you want to do renewable energy, or you want to make use of renewable energy, you need diversity. You need diversity of source, and you also need diversity of where you put them. So where do you put the wind farms? Do you only put them in the Western Cape? Do you put them in the Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape? Because if the wind's not blowing in the Western Cape, maybe it's blowing in the Eastern Cape. So you have to diversify your renewable energy resources to complement each other. So therefore, it's not only wind, or only sun, or only biomass, or only wave. It will be a combination of all this. And part of that, we acknowledge, will also be some more traditional sources, such as a nuclear power station or two, or a coal-fired power station or two.
In studio today, we have two guests who are both involved in the field of sustainable and renewable technology. Hello, Duncan.
Hello, Leanne.
How are you?
Well, thanks, and yourself?
Very well, thank you. And we have Cecil. How are you, Cecil?
Hi, Leanne. Fine, thank you. And yourself?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Now, Duncan, you're an engineer. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
I work at the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies, which is part of Stellenbosch University. At the center, we have two focuses. The first is on the students. We offer bursaries to them, as well as offering a number of courses. The second is working with industry. This allows us to help the industry as well as learning from them.
Wonderful. And what made you decide to go into the field of science?
From a young age, I've had a passion to find out how things work, and that left me only with engineering as a career choice. So when I finished school, I went and did engineering, after which I went to go work in the United Kingdom in the renewable energy field, and we converted cars to run on sunflower oil, and that sparked my career in renewable energy.
Wonderful. Now, Cecil, you are a PhD student currently working in fuel cell technology. Can you tell us more about yourself and what you do?
That's great. I'm a first-year PhD student at the South African Institute for Advanced Material Chemistry. They are based at the University of the Western Cape. They have a range of projects that they're focusing on. Fuel cells is one of the projects that they're working on, but they also have water electrolysis, they have nanofluids, they have membrane separation technology. But my project is focused on the fuel cell.
And what is a fuel cell?
A fuel cell is an electrochemical device. It's almost similar to a battery, but it operates as long as there's a fuel being supplied to the fuel cell, it will operate, whereas your battery has got only finite, as long as the chemicals, when the chemicals is finished inside the battery, there's no more power coming from the battery unless you recharge them. But with the fuel cell, there's continuous power being supplied.
Okay. While we're on this topic of the fuel cell, what sparked your interest in this particular field?
I think it's similar to Duncan. When I was younger, I also had a passion for science, from early on, from secondary school already, I knew I had to do something. When I continued my studies, it had to be something related to science. And then I went to the university to study chemistry, and then I heard about all these problems that's facing us today, like the global warming, and also that the oil is actually a finite, so it won't be sustainable in the future. So that's what sparked my interest in the fuel cell itself.
Okay, and over to you, Duncan. Why did you become interested in renewable energy?
Renewable energy is a developing field. There's lots of scope for growth in it. Also, what's happening is the world is slowly becoming less dependent on fossil fuels because they're running out. So there's a lot of innovation in the renewable energy field.
And for students who have just completed a degree in this particular field, what are the job opportunities available to them?
There are a number of job opportunities available. They could either go into the wind sector or go work in the solar sector. And the best way to go there would be to go complete a course. For example, we offer a number of courses in renewable energy, such as renewable energy systems, wind and hydro, or renewable energy policy. So if you've completed a course, then you're one step closer to getting a job in the industry.
Any exciting projects that you are currently working on right now?
There are. I'm currently working on the Salt Train project. That is the solar thermal training and demonstration initiative for South Africa. What that project is to promote solar water heaters in South Africa. So we offer a number of courses to teach people how they work and their benefits. We also help the manufacturers in producing a better systems. And the last thing is to try and encourage everyone to buy a solar water heater.
Wonderful. And you, Cecil, are there any projects that you currently are researching?
For my PhD project, I've got a fixed project. I'm focusing on the membrane electrode assembly, which is actually the heart of the fuel cell. It's basically a polymer electrolyte membrane. The membrane is it's a ABPBI membrane, and basically what you do, you coat the membrane with 2 catalyst layers. And the way you coat the membrane with the catalyst layers is of greater importance. It actually affects the performance of your MEA and the fuel cell overall. And it also represents the highest cost of the fuel cell. So my aim of my project is to improve the performance as well as reduce the cost of this membrane of the fuel cell assembly.
Duncan, can you describe to us what an average day in your life is like?
My average day varies depending on what project I'm working on. But typically it depends on where you are in that particular project. So in the beginning of the project, you'd be doing a lot of research to try and better understand the product and what technology is out there. From there, you would move on to more interfacing with the client, where you'd get to better understand his specifications and what he wants done. And then you'd go down and do the actual design of the system. If it's such a system, you'd have it manufactured and then implemented. And you normally complete the project by writing a report.
Okay. And Cecil, what's an average day in your life like?
The first year of my PhD is a bit more relaxing, but it takes a lot of research. You need to do a lot of literature review, need to study some previous work that's been done, and then you also need to design some setups. So you need to work out an approach for your project, and only now, recently, I've got everything together. So now I could spend a full day in the lab, but before that I was sitting behind the computer all day and doing the research of behind the whole work, you see, so that I can plan everything accordingly.
Okay, and from the field of renewable and sustainable energy and fuel cell technology, how can South Africa's energy crisis be remedied? Duncan?
The best way to start is with habit changes. So start with yourself. You need to start small, so start putting off lights when you leave a room, defrost frozen food in the fridge, maybe turn the temperature on your geyser down, install a solar water heater or a heat pump, and do your best to try and minimize your demand on the environment and reduce the impact you have.
Cecil?
To be honest, the fuel cell technology is not a quick fix. It is something that will take a bit of time. But other countries like the European countries, they already have these. They start with the buses, the public transport system. They focus on that first, and then they will slowly move. Probably in the next 20 to 50 years, they will start to move into the public sector as well for the commercialization of the product itself. But at first they start with the public transport, and it's also very good for urban and rural areas as well. Rural areas especially because in South Africa we face a problem where rural areas don't have any electricity supply. And this fuel cell is very capable of supplying power in those areas.
In your opinion and in your respective fields, how do you think South Africa's energy crisis can be remedied? Duncan?
I think it should start with the individual. Start with a habit change within yourself. Small things such as putting off a light when you leave a room, installing a solar water heater or a heat pump. If you have to defrost food, put it in the fridge. And then what happens, it'll eventually spread to larger projects such as wind farms or concentrated solar power stations that will reduce the amount of electricity generated from coal.
And you, Cecil?
In terms of the fuel cell, I think, to be realistic, it's not a quick fix solution. It's something that will take a few years, maybe in the next 20 to 50 years. It will become very important in our current technology, in the technology. And some countries like the European countries already have implemented the fuel cell technology into the public transport system. So that is the first target that they have before commercialization of it. But as far as that concerned, the fuel cell is concerned, it's not a quick fix, and it will take some time before it can drastically change our current fuel technology.
So in a nutshell, it all comes down to what? To each one of us. We can all play our part. And to end off with, what advice can you give to our viewers who are looking to pursue a career in either renewable energy or fuel cell technology?
I'd say start finding out what your passion is. If your passion is wind or solar or hydro, pursue it. Best way is to try and do a course at a university or institution, and then from there use that as your building block to try and then get into a company or research it yourself and establish yourself in the field.
And Cecil?
Like you said, you must have a passion for science, and it is a new technology, and it will definitely become important in our future. So it is definitely something to pursue in your career.
Thank you so much, Duncan and Cecil. It has been really wonderful having you in studio today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, I definitely have a clearer understanding of what an important resource energy is. I'll definitely think twice before flipping that switch. Till next time, take care.